A little girl with a heart full of kindness offered her soul cookie to a forlorn stranger, unaware that he was a millionaire CEO. In that simple act of generosity, she unknowingly set in motion a chain of events that would alter their lives forever. The wind whispered across the frost-bitten grass, slicing through the empty park, a quiet harbinger of winter's cruelty. The benches glistened with the morning dew, now starting to freeze, while the sky loomed above, burdened by thick grey clouds. The cold seeped in, slipping under the coat, weaving through the bones and settling deep within the chest. With a swift motion, Sarah wrapped the delicate scarf snugly around her neck, her breath escaping in quick, nervous puffs. With one hand gripping a well-loved canvas tote that hung from her shoulder, the other hand was firmly clasped around the tiny fingers of her 3-year-old daughter, Sophie. As they strolled leisurely down the winding path, the park lay almost empty, save for the squirrels scurrying playfully among the bare branches of the trees. Sarah's face bore the pallor of exhaustion, her features etched with weariness, while her blonde hair was haphazardly tucked beneath a woolen cap. Her boots bore the marks of countless journeys, while her jeans clung to her legs, a tad too light for the chill in the air. Sophie donned a coat that clung tightly to her frame, the zipper stubbornly halted midway, while mismatched mittens adorned her hands. Yet her eyes, radiant and inquisitive, held a gentle kindness as they continued to explore the world, as if it might reveal something truly beautiful. They found themselves without a destination. In the dim light of the early morning, the landlord had taken the decisive step of changing the locks, a move that came after 2 long months of rent left unpaid. Sarah wandered through the city streets all night, cradling Sophie in her arms whenever she grew weary, on a quest for warmth, safety, and a moment to pause. In the serene hush of the park, she settled onto the nearest bench and let out a deep breath. From her tote bag, she retrieved a paper napkin. Inside lay their sole sustenance, a chocolate chip cookie, a bit crushed, and a touch stale, yet still holding on to its sweetness. With the last of their change, she had purchased it at a gas station just before dawn, clinging to the hope that it would offer Sophie a fleeting moment of solace. "Here, baby," Sarah said softly, pressing the cookie into her daughter's tiny hands. The morning meal awaits. Sophie's gaze shifted from the cookie to her mother, a silent conversation unfolding between them. "Why aren't you eating?" With a faint smile, Sarah's lips curled slightly, revealing a hint of warmth amidst her uncertainty. "I already took care of that, darling. That is everything for you." Sophie paused, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. With a single bite, she cradled the cookie in her hands as if it were a cherished treasure. With each bite, her eyes drifted, exploring the world around her. In the distance, a solitary figure occupied a bench, lost in thought. His dark coat draped loosely over his framed shoulders, slumped forward, head bowed in a quiet demeanor. From afar, he appeared to be in a deep slumber, yet there was an undeniable quality to his posture, the way he remained motionless, the weight of his presence that piqued Sophie's curiosity. With a gentle push, she urged her mother. The man wore a look of sorrow. Sarah trailed her eyes, captivated by the direction of her focus. The man remained still. He appeared weary, not merely fatigued, but utterly shattered. His hair hung in disarray, his shoes bore the marks of the earth, and his face, partially obscured, appeared pale and drawn. "Don't stare, sweetheart," Sarah murmured gently, yet Sophie had already slipped off the bench. Sarah began her posture straightening as she spoke. Sophie strolled across the grassy expanse, the cookie clutched firmly in her hand. She paused before the man's bench position, just within his line of sight, should he choose to raise his gaze. As the man blinked slowly, a dawning awareness washed over him. He sensed the presence of another nearby. He glanced upward and beheld her, a small girl clad in an oversized coat, clutching half a cookie, gazing at him as if she had discovered something of great significance. With a gentle motion, she offered the cookie to him, her hand outstretched in a simple yet inviting gesture. "You look like you need a smile more than I need this," she said, her voice calm and gentle. You may take it. The man fixed his gaze upon her. Silence enveloped him. His eyes, deep-set and shadowed, brimmed with a weight of emotion that transcended language. With hands that quivered ever so slightly, he extended them forward, grasping the cookie and gazing at it as if it were a treasure beyond compare. As his lips parted, a solitary tear made its way down his cheek. Moments later, Sarah arrived, her breath hitching at the sight of the man clutching the cookie. She parted her lips, ready to offer an apology, to utter something, anything at all, but the man lifted his gaze to meet hers, and for a fleeting moment silence enveloped them. As the wind whispered softly among the trees, a subtle transformation unfolded. The cookie lingered in Ethan's hand, unmoved and unbitten, even after the little girl and her mother had faded from view. He perched on the bench, the chill nipping at his fingers, his breath escaping in fragmented wisps. The words she had spoken resonated within him, a gentle, yet persistent reminder. It seems you could use a smile far more than I could use this. There was an essence to it, so pure, so whole, that it had shattered something deep within him. For the first time in months, a sensation akin to warmth washed over him. Once upon a time, there was a man named Ethan Carter. At the age of 35, he had already made a name for himself as the founder and former CEO of a billion-dollar tech company that proudly carried his name. For years he had stood as one of the most celebrated minds in the industry, brilliant, relentless, unstoppable. Yet now, even the mere thought of who he had once been felt like a distant memory, foreign and elusive. Only half a year prior, his existence had crumbled within the confines of a clinical hospital room where the monotonous beep of machines mingled with the sharp aroma of antiseptic. For 2 long years, his wife Claire fought against ovarian cancer, a journey marked by hospitals home, nurses' second opinions, experimental treatments, and the ever-present shadow of false hope. Amidst the turmoil she wore, a smile grasped his hand and reassured him that all would be well, even as her own suffering robbed her of sleep under the cover of darkness. She stood as the strongest figure in his life, and when she quietly departed in the soft light of a June dawn, he found himself unable to weep, at least not in those initial moments. He sat there, grasping her cooling hand, lingering in the silence, anticipating the moment when everything would feel tangible again. It never came to pass. In a moment of profound decision, Ethan chose to abandon it all. He turned his back on the company, the board, the penthouse apartment that had once brimmed with books, flowers, and laughter. He left without a word, without a sale or an explanation, simply gathering a few essentials into a backpack before vanishing from his own existence. He wandered through life without a plan, content in his decision to forego one. He yearned to embrace the numbness completely, to allow it to envelop him, perhaps even to obliterate him. There were days when silence enveloped him, days when the dull throb in his chest served as the sole reminder of his existence. And then there appeared the girl with the cookie. It was never merely about the cookie, was it? Her gaze met his with a fearless intensity, wide-eyed and filled with a sense of wonder, as if he were someone deserving of attention, someone in need of assistance. She did not inquire about his identity, nor did she waver. She simply offered unconditionally, without a thought of recompense. That seemingly insignificant act of kindness carried a weight far beyond its simplicity, resonating in ways that were unexpected. As the night deepened, Ethan found himself perched on the edge of a cot in the shelter, his gaze fixed on the ceiling above, while the soft symphony of nearby snores enveloped him. His fingers still held the memory of that cookie's weight. He consumed it in the end, savoring each bite as if it were holy, as though it were a remnant of a more refined version of himself. With his eyes shut, he envisioned the delicate features of Elisa's face. "You'll keep going," she had whispered, her voice a fragile thread, the last time strength lingered in her words. "Though it may bring pain, remember that there is someone out there who will benefit from what you still have to offer. In that moment he had dismissed her words, yet now perhaps he found himself yearning to believe. The following morning, Ethan made his way back to the familiar park. He never anticipated crossing paths with the little girl and her mother once more, yet he found himself seated on the same bench holding on to a flicker of hope. As the minutes stretched on without their arrival, he rose to his feet and began to walk. It wasn't that he had a destination in mind, rather the act of remaining stationary had lost its appeal, leaving him restless and yearning for movement. After months of silence, a thought flickered to life within him, not a plan or a goal, but the faint whisper of a question beginning to form. What if this was not the conclusion of the tale? He recalled the sensation of creating something from the ground up. In the dim light of a bustling coffee shop, he poured his heart into the first prototype of his company's app, fueled by cold espresso and the relentless pursuit of innovation, all while sacrificing precious hours of sleep. He undertook the task driven by a conviction to tackle issues that others shied away from, fueled by his faith in humanity. When did that belief fade away? When did he cease to believe that anyone else held significance? In that moment, his mind wandered to the little girl. Sophie, her mother, had called out to her. He was unaware of their tale, yet the signs were evident in their attire, in the manner the woman cradled the child, and in her choice to forego the cookie herself. They faced their struggles with a quiet dignity, much like he did, yet in contrast to him they had made the choice to extend kindness regardless. On that particular night, Ethan found himself engaging in an activity he hadn't partaken in for quite some time. He made his way to the public library, finding a seat at one of the computers. As he typed in his name, he found himself half expecting the sensation of gazing upon a stranger. The headlines lingered unwavering in their presence. In the realm of leadership, one name stands out: Ethan Carter, the CEO. Gone. Quietude. From a formidable technology powerhouse in the wake of the founder's mysterious disappearance. Is Carter still among us? He gazed at his reflection on the screen, a soft whisper escaping his lips. I don't know. With deliberate care, he unfurled a document and set his pen to the page, beginning to weave his thoughts into words. Neither a code nor a resignation, but rather a letter addressed to his own self. It all started with a name: Sophie. The rain descended in delicate, unyielding sheets, drenching the pavement and transforming the city lights into gentle, ethereal halos. The sort of cold that trailed after a day like this did not gnaw at the skin. It crept in, wrapping around the skin and embedding itself deep within the bones. Sarah found herself sheltered beneath the meager overhang of a shuttered fast food joint, cradling Sophie tightly, her coat soaked through and her shoes squelching with each subtle shift of her stance. Sophie trembled in her embrace, her nose nestled against Sarah's shoulder. Her tiny form lay there, an unsettling chill enveloping her, a haunting stillness in the air. Sarah leaned in closer, her voice barely above a whisper. Just a little longer, sweetheart. Before long, the rain will ease its grip. Yet an unspoken understanding lingered between them, a quiet acknowledgement that it might not unfold as they hoped. The forecast had said rain all evening. They found themselves without a destination. The shelter downtown was full again. The woman at the counter didn't even glance up as she uttered the words. From behind the curtain of rain, a solitary figure emerged, moving with a quiet grace. Ethan! Without uttering a single word, he approached a large umbrella in one hand and a brown paper bag in the other, and with a gentle motion he offered them both forward. Sarah fixed her gaze on him, a hint of suspicion flickering in her eyes. What compels you to take this action? Yet just as he was about to respond, Sophie emerged from her mother's embrace, her eyes fluttering as she navigated the cascade of raindrops. Her eyes grew wide, a spark of joy dancing within them. "I miss you, cookie guy," she said, her voice soft as she recognized the quiet stranger from the park. Ethan's expression took on a gentler hue. With a subtle nod and a delicate smile, he turned away, stepping back into the rain, leaving silence in his wake. Sarah stood there, her heart heavy with unformed questions swirling in her mind as she watched him walk away. As she unzipped the bag, a wave of warmth washed over her at the sight of the sandwiches, the vibrant fruit, and the small bottle of milk nestled inside. She closed her eyes, savoring the moment, and softly uttered a heartfelt thank you. In the days that followed, Ethan found himself drawn back to the park, not to engage in conversation, nor to impose, but simply to settle onto a bench a short distance away, enveloped in silence. He observed Sarah as she took on various small, unconventional tasks, distributing flyers, gathering bottles, and doing whatever it took to ensure Sophie had enough to eat. Yet, amidst the turmoil, she offered her daughter a smile that suggested all was well, despite Ethan's keen awareness that it was not. On a tranquil afternoon, he observed Sophie peacefully slumbering on a picnic bench, her coat cleverly fashioned into a pillow beneath her head. Across the field, Sarah engaged in conversation with a man regarding the dishwashing shifts. With careful steps, Ethan drew near, setting down a carton of milk and a neatly wrapped granola bar beside the little girl, before retreating quietly, allowing her to remain undisturbed. Once more, he repeated the act day after day, as if caught in an unending loop. On a quiet morning, as he set the items down, a voice suddenly pierced the stillness. "What are you up to?" he pivoted. Sarah stood a few feet away, her expression closed off, hands tightly balled at her sides. "Yesterday I caught a glimpse of you." On the day prior, her gaze sharpened. "Are you keeping up with us?" Ethan gave a slight shake of his head. "I simply wanted to express my gratitude." "For what purpose?" He inhaled deeply, then began to speak, at a measured pace, all for the sake of the cookie. On that particular morning, I found myself in silence, having not exchanged a word with another soul for weeks. It never crossed my mind that anyone could still notice my presence. Yet she did. Sarah gazed at him, her breath forming delicate wisps in the crisp, cold air. She quietly revealed that she offers fragments of herself to everyone. Despite my efforts to guide her otherwise, she continues to do it. "She saved me," Ethan said. Sarah paused her silence, stretching out in the air. With a soft sigh, she let her shoulders drop just a bit. "Very well," she replied. "Yet if you intend to continue appearing, perhaps you could share your name with me." He paused, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. Then came Ethan. With a single nod, she acknowledged the moment. "My name is Sarah, and that was everything." Yet in that instant, everything changed. From that moment forward, Ethan's subtle presence wove itself into the fabric of their daily lives. He always knew when to step back, never overstaying his welcome. At times, he would find himself perched on the bench nearby, engrossed in a book, scattering crumbs for the birds, or lending a hand to Sarah when her arms overflowed with burdens. And gradually, that delicate strand of connection started to strengthen. It was not an act of charity. It was not a rescue. It was a feeling of gratitude intertwined with an unnameable essence that lingered between them. Winter arrived with the weight of a deep breath, chilling and relentless. The wind sharpened its bite, the nights deepened into shadows, and the intervals between fleeting gestures of kindness started to shrink. Ethan remained silent about his origins, and Sarah chose not to inquire. Though the shadows they bore remained unspoken, their understanding of one another was profound. One afternoon he arrived carrying a bundle of gently worn coats, all neatly wrapped in a plastic bag. "They're too small for me," he said simply, as he handed them over. There it was, a red puffer jacket, just the right size for Sophie, though it bore the mark of a missing button. Yet despite its small flaw, it still radiated warmth. With a joyful squeal, she enveloped herself in it, twirling amidst the frosty air. "It's red like cinnamon," she giggled. From that moment forward, Ethan settled into a subtle yet constant presence in their lives. One weekend, he led Sophie to the library, observing the wonder in her eyes as they widened at the sight of endless rows of books. Her small fingers danced over the spines, treating them as if they were precious treasures waiting to be discovered. He guided her through the process of using the self-checkout machine, and when she picked a picture book about astronauts, he settled down beside her on the carpet and began to read it aloud. As he turned the final page, Sarah appeared, her gaze locking onto the scene through the glass door before she entered. With a smile, she remarked as they departed, "She doesn't typically sit that still for anyone." Ethan shrugged. "I suppose she simply has a fondness for planets." Unbeknownst to Sarah, he had dedicated the previous night to scouring the internet for every children's book on space he could uncover, determined to ensure he wouldn't misstate a single fact. A few days passed, and he presented her with a note inscribed with a name and a phone number. "There's a diner on 9th, a cozy little spot with good folks. The owner, an old friend of mine, shared the details. In the mornings they require assistance, and I assured them of my reliability." Sarah's gaze lingered on the paper, her thoughts swirling around the words that lay before her. "What compels you to take this action?" Ethan locked eyes with her. "You persist, unwavering through every challenge that comes your way." She secured the position. The money may not have been substantial, yet it flowed consistently, providing just enough for nourishing meals, genuine soap and shoes that kept the rain at bay. After the early shift, she would hand over the reins to Ethan, who would then take Sophie by the hand and lead her to school. Initially, Sarah was hesitant about the notion, yet Sophie was unwavering in her insistence. "He is safe, dear mother. He shares with me tales woven from the fabric of the stars." She began by calling him Mr. Cookie, then transitioned to Cookie Guy, and ultimately settled on the endearing title of Uncle Cookie. The nickname lingered on. One morning, while Ethan assisted Sophie in zipping her coat, she gazed up at him and posed a question. "Do you think sad people are merely waiting for someone to share their snack with?" He blinked slowly, as if awakening from a deep reverie. "Perhaps. It seems that there was a time when you carried a certain sadness, yet now your smile shines brighter than before." He remained silent, yet a subtle movement stirred within his chest. With each passing day, and with every soft step he took, Ethan sensed the grip of the darkness within him beginning to ease. Gradually, like a gentle unfolding, Sophie's laughter intertwined with Sarah's strength, and the compactness of their world expanded the essence of everything around them. He had ceased to be a mere spectre resting on the bench. Once more, he found himself woven into the fabric of something greater. As the sun dipped below the horizon, they gathered in the small rented room, warmth emanating from the steaming bowls of soup and the crunch of crackers filling the air. The heat struggled to find its rhythm while the window sang a haunting tune with the relentless wind. Yet there was Sarah humming a soft tune while Sophie busily coloured stars, and Ethan observed them, his heart swelling with a warmth he hadn't experienced in years. Once he had crafted a tech empire using nothing but the power of his intellect. In that moment he found himself immersed in the act of reconstructing a life, each movement of his hands a testament to his determination. And it held significance greater than anything that had come before. The night wrapped itself in an unusual chill, the sky cloaked in thick clouds, the air thick with the silence of unspoken words. Sarah stepped through the door, weary from her shift at the diner. Her hands bore the marks of scrubbing red and raw, while her feet throbbed from the relentless hours spent on them. Sophie lay peacefully on the mattress. They shared her arms, tenderly embracing her stuffed giraffe. As Sarah crept into the kitchenette, her footsteps barely making a sound, she reached for a glass to fill with water. It was in that moment that her eyes fell upon it. Ethan sat alone on the front steps of the building, his shoulders hunched, his face buried in his hands, framed by the narrow window that offered a glimpse into his solitude. He was crying, not softly, but with a depth that shattered you, raw silent sobs that sent tremors through his entire being. Sarah stood still, her breath momentarily halted. She remained silent, offering no call, no inquiry. Instead, she took a step back and softly drew the curtain, allowing him the space to embrace his sorrow. The following morning, as the city began to rouse beneath a soft, pale sun, Ethan discovered a small, folded paper nestled in the pocket of his coat. In simple handwriting, the words read, "Everyone has lost someone. In this journey, you find that you are not solitary." He gazed at it, lost in thought for what felt like an eternity. With a subtle motion, he tucked it away in his wallet. That evening, while Sophie sketched space rockets on the floor, Sarah settled beside him on the creaky couch. The air was thick with the scent of cinnamon mingling with the remnants of dust. With the paper gripped firmly in his hand, Ethan stood there contemplating its significance. He averted his gaze as he spoke to her. "I have yet to reveal my true self to you." Sarah tilted her head just a bit. "My name is Ethan Carter," he said. "In the past, I found myself at the helm of a tech company. Perhaps it has crossed your ears." She blinked, her eyelids fluttering momentarily, as if to shake off the weight of the world around her. "Hold on, are you Ethan Carter?" He gave a slight nod. "Once I possessed it all. In the heart of a billion-dollar empire, I found myself in a lavish penthouse surrounded by investors who eagerly absorbed every word that flowed from my lips. Yet everything felt insignificant in the absence of Claire." Sarah's voice took on a gentler tone. "Your spouse, she had cancer," he murmured softly. "Ovarian. It was already at stage 4 by the time we discovered it. She battled fiercely, wore a smile each day, even on those mornings when getting out of bed felt impossible. I believed that money held the power to mend it all. I explored every possible avenue." He took a moment to gather his thoughts. The room appeared to pause in anticipation. Upon her passing, my concern faded away. Once upon a time, there existed a company, a place where people gathered each day, beginning with the gentle rise of the sun and the promise of new possibilities. I stepped away from my life carrying only a backpack and a wallet that had remained untouched for months. I sought refuge from the world, hoping no one would uncover my hiding place. In that moment, the desire to vanish consumed me. Sarah remained quiet, allowing his pain to linger in the space between them. "Then your daughter handed me a cookie," Ethan continued, his voice quivering. "And in that moment I experienced the sensation of truly being seen for the first time. Her gaze met mine with a warmth that suggested I was not beyond repair, that perhaps I still held the potential to mean something." He brushed away the tears from his eyes. "You never inquired about my identity. You simply allowed me to sit beside you. You allowed me to exist as I am without any expectations in return." As Sarah's fingers brushed against his on the couch, a quiet connection sparked between them. "Perhaps," she remarked, "we both longed for someone to perceive us without any judgment." She cast her gaze downward, then continued, "The man I loved departed upon learning of my pregnancy, claiming he wasn't prepared for such a responsibility. Alone, I raised Sophie, faced the loss of my job, and then we lost our apartment. In a moment, when I was desperately trying to piece everything back together with nothing but duct tape and whispered prayers, you appeared." Ethan locked eyes with her. "If you could build an empire once," she said softly, "you can rebuild a life now for something that matters more." He gazed at her, then truly gazed. The woman who had borne her daughter through tempests, who had maintained her smile, even as she felt herself fracturing, suddenly found that everything no longer felt so hopeless. They refrained from kissing. They stood apart, not embracing one another. They sat together, hands softly intertwined on the couch, two souls unafraid to reveal their fractures to one another. It was an ordinary moment, unremarkable in its simplicity. In the kitchen, two souls lingered, having made the choice to remain together. The city was on the cusp of thawing, a delicate awakening. Slivers of pale sunlight pierced the overcast sky, caressing the tops of damp buildings and transforming snowdrifts into murky puddles that lined the sidewalks. On that late winter morning, the wind nipped at your skin, yet there lingered a quiet promise of something softer on the horizon. Ethan found himself in the lobby of the headquarters he had once constructed a space that felt both alien and yet remarkably the same. He donned a blazer for the first time in more than a year, the fabric rigid against his shoulders, reminiscent of a memory striving to reclaim its place. Individuals raised their gazes from their devices, eyes wide with astonishment. Several coffee cups fell from trembling hands. Whispers flowed swiftly like a breeze through the corridor. Is that so indeed? Once upon a time, there was a man named Ethan Carter. As he entered the elevator, solitude enveloped him, the gentle chime resonating with an intensity that felt unfamiliar. As he ascended to the executive floor, his steps were deliberate, lacking the brash confidence of a triumphant tycoon, instead embodying the quiet grace of a person who had come to understand the true essence of significance and insignificance. He ambled down the corridor, the sound of his shoes echoing softly against the gleaming marble floors. As he walked through the corridors, familiar offices came into view, some adorned with new nameplates, while others still displayed the titles he once held, untouched by time. In his absence, the company had amassed greater wealth, yet it had also grown more distant. While profits soared to new heights, the sense of purpose began to fade into the background. What had once thrived on innovation and passion now resembled in some ways a machine efficient, yet devoid of soul. That would transform. He summoned a meeting with the board, his former colleagues, a number of whom had believed he would never make his way back. They perched on the edge of their seats, tension radiating from their bodies, eyes darting with uncertainty about what lay ahead. Ethan positioned himself at the head of the long oak table, speaking in a straightforward manner. I did not return to take back what I had abandoned. I returned to restore what had been taken from us. I possess the skills to construct companies, yet my current aspiration is to create significance. It's time we embraced a perspective that transcends mere figures. Now is the moment for us to embrace our values at the forefront. For a long moment, the room lay in silence. At that moment, a throat was cleared. A slow nod came from another person. While opinions varied, there was a universal acknowledgement of the man who had gazed into the abyss and emerged with insights that transcended mere ambition. Objective. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow, Ethan ascended the creaky staircase leading to the small apartment that had become home for Sarah and Sophie. The structure sighed its weary bones, creaking under the weight of time. The paint had begun to flake away from the walls. The air in the hall was thick with the scent of damp carpet and the lingering aroma of reheated soup. With a cautious yet resolute gaze, Sarah turned the doorknob and stepped into the unknown. As Ethan crossed the threshold, a sense of anticipation filled the air. The chill in the room surpassed that of the world beyond its walls. The heater struggled to produce any warmth. Sophie, wrapped in a cocoon of 3 thick sweaters, lay slumbering on the mattress, her dreams punctuated by soft coughs. "I have a place," Ethan said, softly. The stillness envelops the surroundings. It is pristine. A fireplace stands there, its presence felt in the room. No one has called it home since he left it unfinished. Sarah remained silent. With her arms crossed, she stood there, a picture of defiance. "Charity is not what we seek." "It's not charity," he remarked. "It stands as a shelter for a little girl, granting her the peace of sleep without tremors, and for her mother offering a moment to finally exhale and find solace." Sarah gazed at Sophie, who lay curled up like a question mark in her slumber. The following day, they made their move. The apartment to which Ethan led them was far from a mansion. The warmth enveloped the space, a sense of safety lingered, and life thrived within its walls. Rugs lay thick underfoot, absorbing the sound of each step, while books filled the shelves offering a silent camaraderie. The fireplace flickered softly, its crackling a gentle reminder of tranquility. Ethan found solace in the guest room. He stocked the fridge with all of Sophie's favorite things: strawberries, small wheels of cheese and cartons filled with milk. Each morning, he prepared hot chocolate, ensuring to add precisely 3 marshmallows. At night, he would read to Sophie the space books she had chosen, each one a gateway to the cosmos she longed to explore. She began to sketch images of the 3 of them. Her mommy and Uncle Cookie were together, first in pencil, then in crayon, and finally in colors so vivid they constricted Ethan's throat. Sarah observed initially with a hint of skepticism, then with a wave of astonishment, and finally with a gentler emotion. Ethan never sought gratitude. He never sought to seize control. He appeared time and time again. Calm, aware, authentic. On a quiet evening, Sarah entered the kitchen and discovered him carefully stitching a button back onto Sophie's cherished coat. Startled, he looked up. He mentioned that it's her favorite, he did. Sarah remained silent. With a soft step, she moved closer and rested her hand lightly on his shoulder. Later, as they lingered in the dimly lit hallway with Sophie finally drifting into slumber, she leaned in and whispered, "You're not doing this out of guilt, are you?" Ethan gazed at her, his eyes unwavering. "No, I'm embarking on this journey because for the first time in years, I truly desire to." She let out a breath, a genuine release, the sort that emerges when the body finally recalls the sensation of being secure. The spring sunlight poured through the lofty windows, draping the living room floor in gentle golden hues. The air carried a distinct quality that morning, a buoyancy that suggested it had been purified by the lingering chill of winter. For the first time in weeks, birds chirped outside their melodies, weaving through the open window like delicate threads of hope. The subtle aroma of freshly baked bread mingled with the sweetness of sugar, enveloping the apartment in a comforting embrace. As Ethan pulled a fresh batch of cookies from the oven, the sweet aroma enveloped the home, creating a warm and inviting atmosphere. Sophie nestled on the floor, her legs crossed comfortably beneath her, a soft melody escaping her lips as she immersed herself in the world of colors, crayons strewn about her like a vibrant celebration. With a hint of determination, her tongue slipped out as she fervently applied vibrant hues to the page, embodying a youthful enthusiasm. Sarah stood nearby, folding laundry on the couch, her hands working rhythmically as she observed the scene with a sense of quiet contentment. Her thoughts drifted, captivated by the sound of her daughter's laughter filling the air. In an instant, Sophie sprang up, her eyes sparkling with exhilaration. "Look what I made!" she exclaimed, holding up her drawing with both hands, her face alight with pride. It was an image striking, full of life, overflowing with creativity. Underneath a vast expanse of bright blue sky, 3 stick figures gathered, their simple forms a stark contrast against the vibrant backdrop. Yellow stars twinkled in the sky, fluffy clouds drifted lazily by, and cookies cascaded from above, showering the world like sweet blessings. Among them stood a figure with cascading blonde locks, while another twirled in a pink dress, complemented by matching shoes. The tallest of the trio, adorned with glasses, balanced a tray brimming with an array of baked delights. At the top, in wobbly yet resolute handwriting, it proclaimed, "Me, Mommy, and Uncle Cookie, the master of the finest cookies in the world." Ethan stood still, his breath caught in his throat as he beheld the sight before him. The uncomplicated happiness captured in the image struck him with a force greater than any triumph in the boardroom had ever managed to do. His throat constricted. He extended his hand and grasped the paper delicately, gazing at it as if it contained the essence of a forgotten piece of his own soul. "I love it," he murmured, his voice thick with feeling. With a dish towel in hand, Sarah approached, her curiosity piqued as she leaned in to examine the drawing more closely. She offered a faint smile, yet her eyes carried a weight, a blend of tenderness and vulnerability. "She sees you as family," she said softly. Ethan's eyes met hers, a veil of unspoken feelings lingering between them. "I'm not trying to take anyone's place," he murmured, his voice barely rising above a whisper. "I understand that I am not her father, and I recognize that you have navigated this journey alone. Yet I find myself yearning to remain, not out of a belief that you require my presence, nor from a desire to fill the void that has been left behind, but simply because I have never felt such a deep longing to belong anywhere as I do now." Her laughter, your smile, they are the moments that breathe life back into me, as if I've discovered a reason to hold on, a reason to remain in this world. Ever since Claire, that feeling has eluded me. At the mention of his late wife, Sarah's breath hitched and her eyes glistened with unshed tears. I once believed that allowing someone back into my life signified forgetting, that it implied erasing the experiences I had endured. But now she paused, steadying her voice. In my reflection, I realized that healing does not equate to forgetting. Rather, it is about creating space for joy to return once more, even in the face of fear. Ethan extended his hand toward her, and this time she met his grasp without a moment's doubt. She gently placed hers in his. "I don't want to be just a fleeting presence in your life," he said. "I want to be someone who remains." As Sarah blinked, the first tears cascaded down her cheeks, not born of pain or fear, but from the gentle, serene realization that after what felt like an eternity, she was finally prepared to embrace the promise of tomorrow. The kitchen was filled with the warm, inviting aroma of vanilla brown sugar and an indescribable sense of comfort. A gentle melody floated from the radio, an old song that beckoned you to sway its allure, inexplicable yet undeniable. Outside, life continued its relentless pace. Cars zipped by, birds chirped cheerfully. But within the confines of this modest abode, time seemed to pause, and in that stillness there was a comforting beauty. Ethan stood at the oven, clad in a flour-dusted apron, as he meticulously slid a tray of cookies onto the counter. His hands, previously accustomed to the authority of boardrooms, now discovered a more profound cadence in the art of measuring, mixing, and kneading. In this ritual, there lay a profound peace, a beauty in its simplicity. In the far corner of the room, Sophie occupied a table, her brow knitted in focus as she meticulously traced letters into her notebook, her tongue slipping out from the corner of her mouth, a testament to her deep concentration. By the window, Sarah meticulously arranged a vibrant bouquet of sunflowers and wild daisies in a mason jar, the sunlight casting a warm glow on her delicate movements. As she turned just a bit, her eyes fell upon Ethan, who was delicately dusting powdered sugar over the warm cookies. "You know," she said with a teasing smile, "you take these more seriously than your meetings with the investors." Ethan smiled, knowing that these won't fail if someone neglects to preheat the oven. In that moment, Sophie let her pencil slip from her fingers, sprang to her feet, and dashed toward them, her joy unrestrained and infectious. With a gentle embrace, she encircled Ethan's waist, her fingers then stretching upward to clasp Sarah's hand, drawing them both into a warm, collective hug. With a proud declaration, she proclaimed that Daddy's cookies are the happiest cookies in the whole wide world. Ethan gazed downward, his eyes tender, as he leaned in to press a gentle kiss on Sarah's forehead. She leaned into him softly, her hand finding its place on his chest, where the rhythm of his heartbeat pulsed, strong and steady. Attached to the fridge, a well-worn drawing lingered in the background. 3 cheerful stick figures stand beneath a vast blue sky, surrounded by vibrant rainbow-colored stars. Above them, in a whimsical childlike scrawl, it read, "Home is where someone shares their cookie with you even before they know your name." There was no gold, no shiny nameplate to boast of, and no applause to echo in the air. Instead, there was the comforting warmth of the oven, the gentle sound of love's laughter, and 3 hearts that had once known the sting of brokenness, now mended and beating as one. It was not the hand of fate that brought them together, but rather the deliberate choice they made to be with one another. And that changed everything. If this tale resonated with you even in the slightest, perhaps you share our belief that kindness has the power to transform the world. A solitary cookie, a gentle gesture of affection, has the power to blossom into something as profound as family. If you hold a belief in tales that mend, uplift, and bring to light the essence of what truly counts, we warmly welcome you to join us. Join us at Soul-Stirring Stories, where each narrative serves as a soft whisper to the spirit, reminding us that even in the bleakest of winters, love can emerge like freshly baked bread on a Sunday morning. We appreciate your company on this journey, and we look forward to sharing the next tale with you.